If you are a woman living her best hot mess express life while simultaneously crushing it, and you're craving more clarity, purpose, and excellence, get ready because you're in the right spot. I am your host, Chelsea DeBruin-Colbert, and I want to welcome you to Season 2 of All Things Excellence, the podcast, where I'll be bringing you all the inspiration and insights your excellence-seeking heart desires. This season, I'm stepping back into chasing big, bold, and absolutely terrifying goals, sharing every honest step and misstep along the way. We're continuing our beloved Unscripted series, featuring live clarity coaching sessions with guests just like you, and diving deep into raw behind-the-scenes stories of powerhouse women founders I am wildly obsessed with, whose journeys will fuel your own. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready to discover just how close you are to the life your soul is calling you to create. This is All Things Excellence. Hey, All Things Excellence fam. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. It feels so wild and crazy sitting here recording a solo episode because I have not recorded a solo episode in months. We went straight from the Financial Friday series into our Enneagram and the Holiday series, which we just wrapped up a few days ago. And we are going to start by kicking off how Women of Excellence wrap up their year and kick off their New Year series this Friday. So coming to you in a couple of days. Now, what I'm going to tell y'all about the past 2 months that have happened since we started recording the Enneagram series. There is a saying in my old career that a woman's life drastically changes every 90 days. So you're always wanting to follow up with her. You're always wanting to check up with her every 90 days to see if she is interested in a career shift or if something has drastically changed in her life where maybe she needs extra income or she wants something different. Whatever it is, a woman's life drastically changes in 90 days. Now, knowing this quote, it's been pretty close to 90 days since I have sat down and recorded and written out a solo episode where I'm bringing you story time and reflections, which is my style, y'all. It's my personality style. Within human design, if it's something that you believe in, there are specific styles that people really bring their very best to the world. And a lot of mine has to do with storytelling. It's living this trial and error life where I get to bring you right along on that journey with me, letting you know the highs, the lows, and all of the lessons and everything in between. And in the last 90 days, some drastic changes, of course, happened. The first thing that happened was I hired a new coach. And I came to this conclusion that I needed this coach actually while we were recording a Financial Friday series episode. I had a lot of conversations with my husband about it, and I told him that this coach and I, we've known each other for a long time. We've had a lot of conversations over the last 15 years, but especially over the last 6 years, I've been considering hiring her. And I always knew that there would be a day that I would, but that I would need to be in a specific place where I was really ready to step completely, like chest out, full send into that next section of my life. And over the last 90 days since starting to work with her, she helped me first right off the bat. There's an assessment that you take about it analyzes your habitual thoughts. And within that, the very first thing, there was a major flag about emotional abuse. And I was like, I have no clue. Y'all, I'm an Enneagram 8. Like, I don't know. Like, I plow through things quick. I move through things quick. Of course, I tend to deal with them really quickly and then like kick them to the wayside and keep running. But something had happened along the way that had flagged me for being really emotionally guarded. And I was like, well, what about the fact that I'm an Enneagram 8 and we're just kind of born innately not being that vulnerable? We're born little adults. We're born taking care of the rest of the world. And she said, nope, this has got to be beyond that. And so in diving deep with her, we discovered that I had a really long, deep, very serious a relationship with someone who suffers from narcissistic personality disorder. And she's had me now read multiple books and articles, and we've had a lot of conversations now over the last 90 days about some different relationships. And there's been a few people with NPD that I've definitely been deeply involved with, you go through this thing when you discover that where you start analyzing yourself and going, at first you feel this weakness, like, oh my gosh, how in the world did this happen to me? Like, how did I become so insanely controlled by this person? And, y'all know what I did. I went to my chat bot that knows every personality modality about me and had this conversation, which it did tell me, like, hey, you're kind of this perfect little cocktail for somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, because of these pieces about you. You tend to just really take them on and like make everything happen because you are so insanely useful. And what somebody with NPD does, they keep you, they let you be big enough to know that you can handle absolutely any task that they need you to do to make their life happen, but they keep you small enough where you're always right under their finger and you're always like not quite there. Not quite there to be able to step out and do your own thing, where you are always walking into their room as the helper, but never creating your own room as the leader. And so that led me to realize how much I live in this identity of the helper. Now, I've talked to you all about Enneagram 8s. I think the greatest growth for an Enneagram 8 is to go from it's my job to run around and hold up all of the plates of all of the people that matter most to me to I live to serve and empower other people to know that they can carry their own plates. And so that realizing that I'd been in a very, very long relationship all of my adult life with someone with a very extreme type of NPD where you kind of think you're crazy because to the rest of the world, they are this like mythical, magical, charismatic, perfect person, but they don't see the behind the scenes conversations and things that are happening where like the abuse really, really lies. And that's one of the hardest NPD cases to identify and then to be able to recover from because you do feel like you're crazy. But within that, when we discovered that I now have to move from this identity of being the helper into being the leader, it made so much sense because about 90 days ago, I was hitting what's like call like a precipice. I was like coming to this massive place of just grinding and annoyance and bitterness. And I knew it. Like I had people that I was doing life with, and I was so annoyed with them and so bitter with them. And I knew that it wasn't about them. I knew that it was about me. Like I've got enough self-awareness for that. And so I was constantly praying to God, like, God, I need you to help me realize, like, why am I being so bitter? Well, a lot of that bitterness was I'd come to this place where I was finally ready to step out and like create my own rooms, to be a leader, to be kicking butt and taking names and winning instead of being this quiet behind the scenes helper helping everybody else win. And so as that version of myself that I was from 0 to 25 was trying to re-emerge and shed off this like NPD abused shell of just being this quiet little helper person that I'm supposed to be. The two were in conflict and it wasn't fun for me. It probably didn't look pretty to a lot of people on the outside. And I know that, clients and friends that I have that I work with a lot, I know that they were feeling it. And so to be able to hire that coach to quickly identify this, which y'all, this is why you actively grow. Y'all know, Kobe and I had this conversation in the kitchen this morning. Passive growth is you're reading the books, you're listening to the books, and you're listening to the podcast. Active growth is hiring a coach to help you see the things that it is absolutely impossible for you to see, the things that we cannot see about ourselves, no matter how much we pray for God to reveal our blind spots. You've got to be actively growing with a coach, with someone that you are paying who is unbiased to help you walk through these things. And that was one of the best things that I did. So that way I can really enter into 2026 in the best way. Now, when I did that, I started realizing all of the things that needed to be taken off of the table. And I started moving around, creating my new offers that are launching for 2026. I also launched my first solo retreat under my All Things Excellence brand. So those are just a few things that happened because I hired that coach in the last 90 days. The second thing that was big in the last 90 days was soccer season kicked off. Y'all know I am my husband's right hand gal. I am his booster gal. And y'all, it has been a wild season where he got his first red card in his whole 41 years of life. He's been playing soccer since he was a tiny, tiny kid. The red card was completely um, like, I don't even know how to say this without like somebody coming for me, but basically we were on the other side of town. We live in Phoenix and we were on the other side of town. And the culture can be a little different on the other side of town. And he like threw his arm up in a certain way that apparently in a certain culture means to F off. And the ref took it as that, but had no clue that Kobe was actually this like basic white guy who loves Starbucks white chocolate mocha from small town Iowa. And so he was ejected from the game during the tournament. I was like the designated survivor that day, so I was forced to step in and help the team for the second half of the game. We had to forfeit the rest of the tournament. So my Enneagram 8 was, rare and like crazy. And I love questioning myself, am I really an 8? And it's those moments where I look around and, in that moment, I've never felt that I couldn't handle something or figure something out until that moment. I've never felt incapable. I can tell y'all, I do not put myself in places where I don't feel capable of making something happen. If I know that I'm going to be going into a situation where I can't make something happen, I always make sure to surround myself with people that can fill in those gaps. But I did not see this one coming. Obviously, it's never happened in his lifetime. I definitely didn't see it coming. And so that was really interesting for me. Like there was a really immense growth thing that I went through just dealing with that. Also in soccer season, we've had team dinners. We've had like 25 to 30 boys over at our house. We've had weeks where we've had 10 games in a row. We've been doing fundraising. I have a goal. I have to raise about $35,000 for the entire program every single year. So my truest of true Enneagram 8 personality has definitely been coming out through all of that. Now, one thing that has been such a gift is that I'd pre-hired this coach before this season started. And she reminded me that when we get really pushed into a corner, that's when our habitual thoughts really rise, our habitual behaviors really rise, right? Where our conscious mind isn't in control, but our subconscious mind is in control. So the thoughts, habits, behaviors that we do when we're kind of asleep at the wheel because we're just gutting it out through life, that's where we really shine. And I will tell y'all, while I definitely had some of that Enneagram 8 stuff where I'm only delegating to people that I trust. I'm paying left and right for convenience. So I'm spending more money than normal. I'm really taking charge of things. I'm advocating for situations. And I go into this I've got this and everyone around me mode. Now, while that is still, I'm still an Enneagram 8, and that still was very much shining. What was really cool was there was also a lot of stuff going on with tiny little things and people trying to tell me like how a banner needs to be printed and where a banner needs to be printed. Now, I will tell you all, me 10 years ago would have absolutely went just all unhealthy Enneagram 8s on people and told them that they were ignorant idiots and made sure that they felt small. And I can securely say that I did not do that, which what that said to me was there have been massive signs of growth. So one of my greatest fears with allowing myself to step back into the hustle was that because I'm not on the shame hustle culture. Like I'm not about that. I like appreciate the hustle. I love the hustle, but I think the goal is to hustle with really good boundaries and without burnout. And I am so proud of myself for flying through these last 90 days where it was insane because that's life. Like sometimes life is wild and crazy and a little bit insane and your plate is spilling over all over the place and there's nothing that you can do about it. But I'm proud of myself because I navigated through that without blowing up on anybody, without telling anybody that they were a freaking ignorant idiot, and without destroying any relationships. I didn't burn any ships. I didn't burn any houses down. And I absolutely did not hit burnout. Now, am I coming to you today where I have a very full day today and then no one's going to hear from me for a week? Absolutely. But I've been planning that. I knew how much I had of me, how far I could spread myself, and how much I had left in the tank to be able to get to tonight where I really get to shut everything down and do that well, again, without the blowups and without the burnout. The fourth thing that I did over the last 90 days, I really watched myself shift and sift into who I want to serve most in this next season. And I came to this realization where I want to serve women in leadership and business who have already dipped their toes into the water of growth, right? They're not just walking around zombies and woke up yesterday and realized, like, oh, I think I might want to do some personal growth. Or for 15 years of my direct sales career, I loved attracting the average woman who didn't even know she was supposed to have a dream, who didn't even know she was supposed to be growing. But now I got to this place where I'm like, I I always say, like, I hate the way this sounds. I want more than that. It's just not enough for me anymore. When I say that, I mean I'm ready for that middle growth woman. She has been doing the things. She's been listening to the book. She's been listening to the podcast. She's done some therapy. She's maybe even done a little bit of coaching, and she's ready to move into really serious, honest, next level coaching with me. And she is already in a leadership position or in an entrepreneurial position. But again, they've started the work. They've started that work, and they know that they need to grow, and they've already been doing it a little bit. And so most importantly, I've been giving myself permission to show up so specifically and so freaking well for that woman in leadership and business who has already been doing some of the active, not just passive growth. Real quick, before we dive back in, I want to share something I created for the women who are growing, but still kind of feel like they're doing it alone. If that statement just hit, then this is for you. I've never felt so aligned and so alone, is the message I kept hearing as more and more women were falling in love with their life doing what they were born to do. They were craving that like-minded, iron sharpening iron relationship with other women who were as focused, powerful, and determined to be positive as they were. And that is why I created the Growth Collective. It's our All Things Excellence book club community where you don't have to read the book because audio and PDF cliff notes are provided for you. There's a community for you to connect and network with other growth-minded women, plus 2 monthly Zooms where you receive connection and live coaching from me. Head on over to chelseadbc.com/book club to join us. All right, let's get back into it, because what you're hearing today is exactly why spaces like the Growth Collective exist. We were never meant to grow alone. So let's talk about, what am I doing this week? What am I doing this week? And I will tell y'all, in the middle of wrapping up these 10 soccer game weeks while adding a new full-time employee, adding more clients, doing all of those things, there was a time where I was really, really mad about feeling like I was all over the place this year, like I didn't have any intention, like I was like so hard in this human design 3-6 trial and error phase. It means just like trial and erroring all over the place. And I felt like I had a lot of throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall and not a lot of like incredible deep wins. And I was in the parking lot of Kobe's school, and one of my very long time dearest friends, Paula, we're chatting as we're leaving, and I made this comment to her, you know, that I'm like, yeah, I was like beating myself up about the year. And this is why you have to surround yourself with the good people and the right people. Because through my open car window, she like grabbed my soul and shook it and just reminded me of all the things that I did this year, because I hold myself to such a high standard of excellence. I forget all the tiny things that the rest of the world sees as wildly excellent. And I'm like, I did nothing. I sucked. I was all over the place. I didn't feel like I had great intention. And I'm also like the least physically in shape that I've ever been. Like I poured the most health into my life this year as far as like what I put into my body with supplements and food and nutrition, and I've never gotten like as much sleep as I've gotten this year, prioritizing that. I've never had a better emotional health this year than I ever have. Like, this was my least amount of like any depression or sadness that I've ever dealt with since I was probably 10 years old, and I'm 40, so in the last 30 years. But I was just really beating myself up about not having any like type of banner celebration thing. And she just grabbed a hold of me and reminded me of all the places that she is proud of me. And that made me start realizing, like, reviewing the past year, what were my core memories that I'm really proud of myself for? And the first one was definitely skipping my fiscal year end. Like I skipped a fiscal year end for my direct sales job in June, and I went home and I spent that time with my brothers and their wives and their kids and my family, being there for my brother at his truck show, which if you've listened to any prior episodes about, missing seeing my aunt and her passing away so I could finish this, infamous special colored car in my previous career, that was crushing to me for a really long time. And I held that against myself. And so to see that I so effortlessly chose to be there at this really important milestone for my family over finishing my goal. And I didn't finish my goal. I missed my goal. I really, honestly, I handed it to God and said, God, this is yours. Like, if you want this to finish, I've got the team. I've done the work all year. I'm just going to let you finish it. And honestly, we didn't finish it. And I think it was so beautiful that we didn't, because here I am exactly 6 months later and I don't care. Like it doesn't matter. And it's just saying to the fact that like the things that we think matter so much in that moment, they don't. And me today, looking back 6 months, if I would have stayed in Arizona to go, I got to stay at home. It's the fiscal year end. I got to finish this goal. And I would have missed my brother's first ever truck show and all these hysterical moments that Kobe and I had with our niece and nephews and our other littles, Zach and Lizzie. Like I wouldn't have traded any of that for the world. Like I'm so glad that I was exactly where I was supposed to be and that I did that. The other thing I did, I'm so proud of myself that I reclaimed the best pieces of me at the risk of losing my friends. There's a lot of things that I spoke out on with this podcast where I thought, oh my gosh, I think I just burnt the entire house down. But I was, speaking my truth, and I was speaking to what I felt like I needed to. I hired the coach that's, backing me in the corner. And then, last of all, I reached out to my childhood best friend that I know I've talked about on here, which about 8 days ago, my childhood best friend from like 0 to 27, she lost her mom really suddenly to a random viral infection. And last Sunday, my brother texted me early in the morning right away. They all still go to the same church and let me know that her mom had passed away. And I remember in that moment thinking, the only thing in the world that I want to do is message her and tell her I'm so sorry. And think I don't even know what her phone number is anymore. I open Messenger. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not even Facebook friends. We haven't talked in 13 years. Like, I don't know how you go from talking every day and sharing a locker and like scooping the little town loop together every day to not even knowing her phone number and not being Facebook friends. But here we are. And I then realized, we hadn't messaged in 13 and like almost 13 years. And I just shot her a message, which immediately opened the line of communication. And, doing that, I also realized that that was part of that, NPD thing where there was a lot of relationships that I think I would have shifted them on like where they are as far as like a circle depth. Are they my inner circle? Are they my middle circle? Are they more of an acquaintance? Instead, there was a lot of people that I cut out of my life where I think I would have shifted where they were in my life. And so, that brought up a lot for me. And then I messaged my brother like, oh, hey, I reached out and we've been talking. And he was like, well, look at you go. So I think I was proud of myself for that, but I think he was also proud of me for doing that and just reaching out to her, and just kind of letting the past be the past and, deciding that 13 years later, we can still really love each other and miss those pieces of our friendship. The other thing that I'm really proud of myself for is listening to the whispers. A promise that I made myself at the beginning of the year was that I was going to listen to the whispers more this year than ever before. And one of those whispers was the book club. So getting the book club up and going, and, I officially have our retreat that's happening in February through the book club. And so it's for those women in leadership positions in business and entrepreneurship that are actively growing, that are already doing the work. And of course, the best place to birth those retreats is out of our book club. It's that $17 a month membership. Y'all, it is the best place. I promise you, it is a safe place for women in business and leadership to grow. And we're having the time of our lives. And it just came to me one moment on the patio, and then I threw it out there and I never hesitated. And the same thing with this this retreat that we have going. Those are two things where the whisper came, I immediately blasted it out to the universe, and nothing has ever been so effortless as those two things. And then, of course, I'm proud of myself that I kept coaching. I didn't back down on it, which I've done in the past, and shift back over to only doing direct sales. I have kept Carline this whole entire year, which was just a really big leap for me. And then I've also obviously kept podcasting because here we are on our 92nd episode. And exactly a year ago this week was when I started recording the first 5 episodes that launched in January. So we're creeping up on those 100 episodes, which was my goal, to be able to hit the 100 episodes in our very first year. So the other things that I'm going to be doing this week, I'm going to be binging the heck out of Harry Potter with my husband while we do puzzles and board games, and I have absolutely no shame about it. There is nothing structured, there's no gain other than just physical and emotional renewal, and we are really excited about it. The third thing that I'll be doing is a heck of a lot of patio time. I'm going to be asking myself, what do I need to start, stop, continue, enhance, and do better in 2026? Kobe and I will be going over our 8 areas of alignment in our personal goals and in our marriage goals, which we will be bringing you that. We're going to be coming to you next week, talking about what does it look like in our marriage to really unpack the year, talk about what we're proud of, what we wish that we did better, and then what we're doing in 2026 and where we're shifting. And we're always looking in those 8 areas with Selah, which is like the fun and the joy and the excitement, that heaven on earth, spiritual, physical, emotional, family, friends, financial, and the career calling. We'll be talking about that, and asking myself things like, what earns a seat back at the table of life? Y'all know the biggest thing that I do is every 6 months, I pull everything off the table. Nothing stays. Everything comes off. And I ask myself, what earns a seat back at my table of life? What is my mission and calling? And is this true? Like, what have I been saying for the last 6 months? Who have I been centering everything around? Like, who is that avatar that I picture in my head with every single thing that I do in life? And is this still true? What today do I want to be known for? And this is where something shifted for me. That now I say every single day, everything I create is for the woman in leadership and business, those women who want to lead with clarity, self-trust, and excellence without burning themselves out or diluting who they are. Those women in leadership that are ready to just full send, no excuses, not letting anybody shame them, hold them back, or worry that they're gonna burn out, because allowing them to like lean into the hustle and to do it really, really well. Now, that being true, how do I want to show up for the next 6 months? What am I no longer willing to carry forward? What pruning needs to happen? And remember, pruning can be painful. What conversations do I need to have to end some of these things that I no longer want to carry forward? Where am I being inconsistent in my words and my actions? Where am I being inconsistent in my words and my actions? Specifically, y'all, I can answer that question and say, this year, again, I physically, I did my very, very best and my very, very worst all at once, where I took care of my body as far as the supplements and the food and how I was treating it, with how hard I pushed my body with, like day-to-day life stress and my doing and my sleeping better than ever. Physically, I have never been weaker. And every time I go to Pilates, I remind myself that this thing that's hard used to be effortless and it will be effortless again. So one of my biggest things that I am working on in 2026, where I feel a little inconsistent with my words and my actions, is that it's that physical piece and really making sure I'm getting those consistent 5 workouts a week. I ask myself, what is important? What is most important for me to experience in 2026? And what has to shift to create that reality? So first of all, obviously physical strength, right? Physical strength is not there. So I've got to shift my morning routine. Second, I need greater intention in my work. Remember my meltdown over that. So I need to fully release the helper so I can full send on who I really serve, right? I cannot keep helping everyone hold up their own plates and be the woman that empowers women to hold up their own plates. I can only be one. I can be that woman who leads and empowers, or I can be the woman who's running around holding everybody else's plates up. I cannot do both. Another thing that needs to shift, I need to increase margin and white space. So again, stopping the side gig helper roles, like from the book, The Illusion of Money, that Amy and I talked about. I need to fully step into my current value in the marketplace so that way I can do that well. You guys know I love Dr. Benjamin Hardy's book, Scaling. It's the book we're reading right now in book club. And he said, the smartest thing and the best thing that any business owner can say is, we don't do that. So getting so clear on what you do, positioning yourself appropriately with your value in the marketplace, so then you can full send say, we don't do that, and send them to the people that do. And again, elevating that Enneagram 8 in me, where I'm no longer holding the plates for everyone, but empowering people to hold their own plates. The fourth thing that I really want to shift this year is I want to have a lot more sporadic joy and wild adventures. And I call that, y'all, I just call that God's goodness. God's just sweetest, juiciest goodness, where it might be a sunset. It might be like one of my favorite God's goodness moments this year was when we were back for that truck show, and we had a Airbnb, and the kids loved staying with us in our Airbnb. They called it the Mansion. In my hometown, it's a historic square, and so we were on the third floor of the historic square, and the old buildings like you see on Hallmark movies. And so we're up there in the mansion on the third floor, and my tiniest nephew, who is 3 at the time, actually he just turned 4. Just had his birthday, just turned 4. He was eating, I'd made him French toast sticks from scratch, of course. And so he was eating them, and his fingers were covered in syrup. And in the middle of that, he got really thirsty and he wanted a drink of milk. Well, he's sitting up on the kitchen counter when he's doing this because he's the baby, right? We let him do whatever he wants. And I was standing on the other side of the kitchen, and he asked Kobe, it said to him like he was thirsty, wanted a drink of milk. And so Cooper just sat there with his sticky little fingers just out to the side, and Kobe picked up his glass of milk and was like helping him drink his milk while his sticky fingers were just, being held out to the side. And it was one of those like really sweet moments where you're so grateful that you worked and did the work when you were supposed to, so you could be there to make French toast sticks with your niece and nephews and watch your husband like hand feed your nephew his milk, and just watching their relationship grow and blossom. And it was just sweet. And I want more of that this year. I want more of those moments. We live a really planned life because of Kobe's job. And I just want to make sure that I have more pockets for whispers to chase, and last minute trips to Hawaii, and Thursday mornings with French toast sticks and cold glasses of milk with my littles. So as we close out this year, y'all, my hope for you is this. My hope for you is that you give yourself credit for what you did do. No one beats themselves up like me. I am there with you on beating yourself up, on looking back at what didn't go well, what didn't get to be as excellent as you wanted it to be. But my hope is that you'll just give yourself credit for the things that you did do, and that you did do well, and that you did better this year than you've ever done in the past. I also hope that you hold yourself accountable for what you really want. Don't just get stuck in only the joy and the gratitude and reframing why it was okay, but also hold yourself to the fire. So that way you do see the things that you didn't make happen this year, and hold yourself to the fire to make sure you do make them happen next year. My hope is that you let yourself dream the wildest dreams, and remember that they were given to you specifically to birth for a reason. And my hope is that you don't give up, and that you allow yourself to evolve and grow. But at the end of the day, you can't give up. Even if you have to pivot, even if it looks different, even if it takes longer, much longer, 10 times longer than you thought it was going to be, remember not to give up and to keep going. I want to thank you all for listening for the last 92 episodes. I hope you stay with us as we continue on to celebrate 100 episodes, and as we walk into our 3rd season of the All Things Excellence podcast. Thank you, All Things Excellence fam, for listening. And we'll talk to you all next time. Thanks for listening to All Things Excellence. If something landed with you today, I'd love for you to follow the show, share it with a friend, or leave a quick review. It helps more women find these transformational conversations. And if you're ready for support with your next step, or needing someone to stand in the gap with you to figure out what that even is, I'd love to create that space for you. And my intro clarity call is a great place to start. because life is too quick and too full to have to figure it out alone. Until next time, All Things Excellence fam, thank you for listening.